my name is Sid Gunty. I'm a senior in high school. I've gotten a 1490 composite in the SAT with a 700 in reading writing and a 790 in math. And in the next few videos, I'll be going over Bluebook practice test 5, each single question step by step. So in this video, I'll be going questions 1 through 10 on the English section. Okay, number 1 says, which choice best completes the text, the most logical and precise words? So this is a vocab question. So I'll read through it. According to a team of neuroeconomists from the University of Zurich, ease of decision making may be linked to communication between two brain regions, the prefrontal cortex and the parietal cortex. Individuals tend to be more decisive if the information flow between the regions is intensified, whereas they make choices more slowly when the information flow is. Okay, so we have to look for the claim here. It says, individuals tend to be more decisive if the information flow between the regions is intensified. So it's saying decision making is better when the flow is intensified. So that means, so it says whereas, so that's doing a contrast. So that means we're going to have to find the word that is the opposite of intensified. So we'll look through each one. Reduced, that could work because it's the opposite of intensified. Evaluated doesn't work. Determined means to figure out, which doesn't work. Acquired means to obtain, which doesn't work. So the answer is A. Number 2, same type of question. We'll read through it. Ecologist Ezekiel Ezekura and colleagues found that the inhabitants of the Mexican Empire's natural landmarks attract time with a high degree of, by observing the sun's positions in relation to various points on the mountains surrounding the basin of Mexico, the Mexico were able to precisely identify the dates when significant events such as solstices occurred. Okay, so we're going to have to look for a word that is showing like exactness, kind of. So because it's saying they're very precise in how they found it, so we're going to have to find a word that is exact. Precariousness. Precarious is to be safe, to be sound, kind of. So that wouldn't work. Exactitude, that's the word we're looking for. We'll keep that. Resilience doesn't make sense. Inconspicuousness just means you're not stealthy. Okay, number 3. In editor Lisa Yazkek's introduction to her anthology, The Future is Female, More Classic Science Fiction by Stories by Women, Yazkek identifies an increasing sense of blank feminist mode of writing in the 1970s in contrast to many women-authored science fiction stories of the 1920s and 1960s whose politics were less deliberately signaled. So she is different from the rest because it's saying whose politics were less identifies and sorry. Okay. So we're going to find something that's the opposite of less deliberate, which is more deliberate, which is overly. And we'll look at the explanation. Prudent means precautious, cordially means politely, and inadvertently means unintentionally, so neither of them would work. K.D. Leica and colleagues found that the sun's corona provides an advanced indication of solar flares, intense eruptions of electromagnetic radiation that emanate from active regions in the sun's photosphere and can interfere with telecommunications on Earth. Preceding the flare, the corona temporarily exhibits increased brightness above the region where the flare is. So, increased brightness typically means it's more active. So we're going to look. Antecedent means before, so that wouldn't work. Impending could make sense. Innocuous means like safe, kind of unharmful. So that one. Perpetual means forever. Okay, so now we're going to look at main purpose. The following text is adapted from Gene Webster's 1912 novel, Daddy Longlegs. The narrator is a young college student writing letters detailing her weekly experiences. The college is organizing the freshman basketball team, and there's just a chance that I shall make it. I'm little, of course, but terribly quick and wiry and tough. While others are hopping out of the air, I can dodge under their feet and grab the ball. Okay, so that's the main purpose of the text. So we'll look through each of the answers. To compare basketball with other sports, the only sport that's mentioned is basketball, so that wouldn't work. To provide details of how to play basketball, that wouldn't work because it doesn't really show the instructions of how to play basketball. And C, it says to state how players will be chosen, but there's only one player who's talked about, so it has to be D. Main purpose. Researchers have long hypothesized that woolly mammoths were hunted to extinction in North America by humans using spears with groove tips known as clovis points. One anthropologist set to test out this hypothesis. Using a mechanical spear thrower, he launched spears with clovis points in the mounds of clay, substitutes for the animal's large bodies. The projectiles generally penetrated only a few inches into clay, an amount insufficient. This led the anthropologist to conclude that hunters using spears with clovis points likely weren't the principal drivers of the extinction. So the anthropologist is saying that it couldn't have been the humans because the spears didn't penetrate enough to kill the animals. So we're going to have to look for something that supports that. To argue the significance of new findings, so there's only one finding, so that will not work. Advantages and disadvantages, nope. There's only one hypothesis provided, so that wouldn't work. So D, to describe an experiment whose results cast doubt on an established hypothesis. Yep, that's our answer. The ancient writings, according to texts, what do some historians agree about the Maya civilization? So we're going to have to find what the authors say. The advanced ancient writing system used in the Maya kingdoms of the southern Mexico and Central America had a symbol for the number 0. The earliest known example of the symbol dates to more than 2,000 years ago. At the time, almost none of the writing systems anywhere else in the world possessed a 0 symbol. So that means the Maya civilization was advanced for the time. And the use of 0 in Mexico and Central America may have been even more ancient. Some historians suggest that the Maya mathematicians inherited from the Olmec civilizations, which flourished in the region 2,400 to 3,600 years ago. Okay. So we're going to look through each of our answers and see which one supports the text. Maya civilization acquired the use of 0 from the Olmec civilization. This could work. Maya civilization respected its historians more than it respected its mathematicians. That's never supported. Highly secretive. We never see anything that talks about secrets, so that won't work. And it never talks anything about imposing writing systems, so that will not work. Main idea. A subject of much speculation, so there's a lot of debates around this. Distinctive sets of parallel ridges mark the icy crust of Europa, Jupiter's smallest moon. Researchers now claim that the ridge's formation mechanisms mirrors that of a strikingly similar path in Iceland's green ice sheet. There, surface water seeped through fissures in the sheet and formed a water pocket that subsequently disrupted overlaying ice, forcing fragments of its upward and outward into peaks as the pocket froze and expanded. Although Europa lacks liquid surface water, the same process could be driven by the moon's subsurface ocean. Okay, so what they're saying is even though the moon doesn't have water, the ridges form the same way as described here. So this process also happened in Europa. So we'll look through which one supports that. May have informed the same process. Okay, so that could work. The primary difference between blah blah blah. So the text is saying they're similar, not different. And it never talks about time frame. Researchers. So they don't talk about why, they just talk about how it formed. Main idea. To understand how Paleolithic artists navigated dark caves, archaeologist Mangelis Medina Alcaide and her team tested different lighting methods in a cave in Spain using replicas of artifacts found in European caves with art. They used 3 different Paleolithic light sources: torches, animal fat lamps, and fireplaces, determining that each likely had a specific purpose. For instance, the team learned that animal fat lamps were less useful than torches while walking because lamps didn't illuminate the cave floor. Okay, so their claim was that each light source had a purpose, and they tested it in the cave. So it says fireplaces were essential. It never talks about fireplaces, so no. Discovered that Paleolithic cave dwellers in Spain used animal fat lamps. Nope, never supported. Reluctant to draw many conclusions from their study because of the difficulty they had replicating. No, they clearly replicated each light source here, so that would not work. Tested Paleolithic light sources and learned some details about how Paleolithic artists traveled in the dark. Yep, that's correct. Okay, so this is a graph question. So we're going to look at the claim here. So when I do these, I usually don't look at the description because it usually just describes the graph right here. So we'll look at the claim. There were more medicine and health researchers topic submitted in 2019 than any other year. So saying more medicine and health research. Medicine and health is the dotted with the circle. And we look at 2019. So we see medicine and health are at about 280-ish. And so we have to find data that supports it. Okay. In 2016, it talks about 2016, that wouldn't work. This also talks about 2016, so off the bat, you can get rid of those two. In 2019, there were more physics science topics submission than there were medical. That would disprove the claim, and that would work. Okay, so those are the first 10 questions of Bluebook Practice Test 5. I hope this helped, and I'll see you in the next video. Thank you.